Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you joining the webinar. And today we're going to focus on shipping logistics, getting more out of the system on the shipping side. So most of you know that WiSys has a warehouse product. We also manage the manufacturing process, but it's important to understand how those products that come in, move around, and get all the way through the shipping side of the business. I have a few slides to go through, and that will help set up my demonstration. So let's take a look at those. So I just want to introduce our company, WiSys. We have a number of proven solutions that work with Macola. We uniquely work with the Macola product, not a bunch of other ERP applications. We have over 250 companies that exercise our product every day. On our team, it starts with Bruce Hollinger, who's the original founder of Macola. We have 15 other people here that are committed to making things happen for you in the field. The applications that we have offer tight integration with Macola. So whether you're on Progression SQL today, or Macola ES, or just getting started with Macola 10, the WiSys applications work with any of these solutions. And there's very little to do to upgrade between them on the WiSys side. When we think about working on the shipping applications, if you start at the left, at the lower left and the bottom, you'll see that have a low number of orders. Just on typing into Macola and getting things out and manually creating reports and manually printing labels, things like that. But when you want to reduce the latency of data coming into the system, you start to think about barcoding. And as you begin to move up to the top and to the right, we're going to be looking at things that create velocity of shipment, numbers of orders that need to be processed, number of documents that must be complied with, and the number of people that begin to record and keep the system up to date begins to increase. So we want to be able to move to the right as needed, but maybe not involve quite so many people to get the same amount of work done. Warehouse management typing. And when we begin to think about the supply chain, we're working with pallets, integrated shipping, EDI, and a lot of other unique processes that customers put demands on you for if you want to do business with them. So whether you're shipping, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 orders per day, or whether it's thousands of orders a day, you can use this solution that I'm going to show you today to begin to automate your processes. If you look at a typical Macola company, they may have 15 people in the front office using the accounting, maybe doing some order entry, accounts payable, human resources, payroll, things like that, maybe some engineering. But the vast majority of the people are working on products out in the shop, the back office workers, the people that are actually handling material, touching it, holding it, putting it together, and eventually getting it out the door with the right paperwork to make sure that you guys can get paid. So you can really see that in a company of 100 people, maybe 15 to 20 of those people might be up front, but the bulk are in the back. And those people traditionally have not participated in keeping Macola up to date. They would write things down on paper and return them, and someone would key punch that at the end of the day. A lot of people ask me, how do I get started? If you're going to ship something, you need to have your materials organized in a warehouse. A typical warehouse on the left would have aisles, A, B, C, and D. And you notice there's a one-way path through the warehouse. That eliminates congestion. And each of those aisles are designed to speed the traffic and let people use forklifts or carts to get through in an efficient path. On the right, we have a numbering system. It's really important to think about how you want to number your racks. This is one option. In my example today, at the bottom level, the A0 level, that is my pick bin. So even though there's a pallet in there right now, I'm going to later do a pallet letdown, and I'm going to create pickable product, whether it's in standard pack or master pack would be at that lowest level. So pallets, full pallets sit up above, and pickable pallets are at that lowest level. It's always important to think about the barcodes. That's one thing that people ignore. When I am moving material in the warehouse, I want to know where that product is. A lot of people that work with warehouse management, WMS, think about, well, I want to begin to control my inventory. Well, controlling it means knowing where it is. And knowing where it is means that I want to have my bins barcoded. Part of a project is to get those bins labeled so that they can be used. So notice how big this barcode is. It needs to be on reflective paper and big so that it can be hit with the barcode scanner at a distance, and you'll get more mileage out of that scan if you have good paper and a good big barcode. Okay, WiSys applications. WiSys applications are built on top of the Macola database. At the lowest level is our Macola applications and database that we're interacting with. On the very top, on the left, we have warehouse management, shipping logistics, pallet management, order management, manufacturing execution, and our Agility Explorer, which is a business intelligence application that you're going to see in just a minute. What's important about these applications is they're built with a tool set. They're built with our framework. The framework is designed to be tailored so that if you need a special process or something to work better for you, it can be done without having to call a programmer and make a change in the back of the main WiSys office and then later on emailed or shipped out to you or downloaded. The applications are remarkably quick to change. So the framework comes with a typical WiSys solution. Another thing to think about is WiSys is a little different than other third-party warehouse systems. And what do I mean by that? Many third-party applications that plug into Macola may have their own database that works with Macola. So you do transactions in Macola, and then you have to synchronize or export or move data around to get the two systems to be in check. When you pull the trigger on a scanner or do a transaction on a screen in WiSys, those transactions are updating Macola right when it happens. So there's no synchronization, there's no extra transaction that has to happen to get Macola to be in check. Whether you use a desktop Macola screen or a WiSys screen, either one of those are going to generate a transaction in that Macola database. So when you see our applications today on the handheld, those applications are built with this application on the left called Form Studio. Form Studio actually is just a small Windows screen that ends up being displayed on the handheld. There's really never any data saved or recorded inside the little handheld computer. The screens that are designed on the left are immediately available on the gun when you make changes. So someone at your company or a WiSys consultant or your business partner, everyone can work together, everybody can collaborate to build systems very quickly to support your transactions. So maybe in your system when you do a transaction you need to collect a little bit extra data. You can expose it, collect it, scan it, and keep it. That's why the framework is important. It gives you a very easy way and rapid way to change the system. We like to talk about WiSys applications being purpose-built. Our applications come out of the box and do a great deal of things, but when you're in an environment, you pick up new customers, you're going to have continuous challenges, and those challenges cause continuous changes for solutions. So you need to be able to react quickly when you pick up a new customer. Some people are starting to ship with 3PLs, having people work on your behalf. That's going to create new requirements. You may need to collect more data. Going around the circles to the right, we have customer changes for compliance. You know, when you have all these EDI transactions coming into your business, most of them require label changes. You need a system that can react quickly to that. Another trend at the bottom of the screen there, you'll see shipping changes from pallets to eaches. In the past, maybe you were comfortable just shipping large pallets of product to your customers, and that was great. But now with the internet, you may be doing more eaches. Companies I'm talking to many times are starting to do business in new ways, and WiSys is very adaptable for that. And shipping volumes. Maybe today you're shipping so many products a month, but now you're going to pick up a new customer, and it's going to be amazing how many more shipments you're going to need to get out. Okay. And we like to say that shipping shoes is a lot different than shipping oatmeal. It's very possible that what you need to collect is different than someone else. So shipping changes all the time. So who needs a warehouse system and who needs logistics? Well, if you have a warehouse, you might need a WMS. If you're starting to ship or starting to increase your shipping, you probably need a shipping logistics system. What really adds to that is the collection of lot numbers, serial numbers, watching your bins as you take product from one bin and move it to another. All these things require transactions to happen in Macola, and a scanner can alleviate all that extra data entry by doing it right when it happens. So if you are storing information and shipping on pallets, WiSys has added a complete new pallet layer to Macola. Just like keeping track of lots, we can now keep track of pallets. And license plating pallets many times has compliance requirements. Unique shipping needs, we talked about that a minute ago, and compliance for labeling, EDI, and being able to integrate with non-Macola data. It's very possible you have other SQL data on your systems that could be integrated into Macola transactions. The WiSys framework is very open, and inside the same transaction, you could build in relationships to maybe a QA system and be able to track QA ins and outs just the same way you're doing Macola transactions. I guess the bottom line is that everybody would like to have better Macola data. Real-time, up-to-date Macola data gives you the ability to make better decisions. So, if you were to pop open our website and look at the applications that we have, these are the modules that are available from WiSys: warehouse management, shipping, pallet management, order management. I'm going to skip a couple here that aren't circled. We're going to look at Agility Explorer, and I've discussed a little bit about Form Studio. So these are the applications that I'm going to work on. Now, for our demo, I'm going to start under the hood. I'm going to show you how things are set up so that it'll make more sense as I go through transactions. You'll know where things come from. We're going to look at document management, and we're going to see how documents are connected in SQL Server to specific transactions and customers. I'm then going to show you where we can keep track of relationships on barcodes. Macola has a spot for the UPC code, but we have other places where we can keep GS1, standard pack, and master pack information. I'm going to show you that. Then we're going to pop open Agility Explorer, which is a grid-style view of your Macola information, and we're going to begin to manage some of our orders. I'm going to use pallet management throughout the process a couple of different times, but the heart of the demo is going to be 4 different orders. I'm going to look at an order for eaches for an Amazon order. I'm going to look at another order for a Hallmark store, which is a standard pack. I'm going to look at a mixed case order for a Office Max. And then finally, for my Giant Eagle distribution center, I'm going to ship full pallets. And if we have some time left, we'll discuss EDI options. So I'm going to put this to sleep. And I am going to minimize this. I'm assuming you can now see my Agility desktop screen. Okay. Using agility, I am going to start with looking at the document management. So under Setup, we have File, Options, and Documents. This is where we store all the documents in WiSys. When you purchase WiSys, you can actually open up the system and you can import all these different documents that we have. Once those documents are there, they're controlled and saved in these different hives or folders where I can have transactions set up to do different things. So as an example, today I'm going to do some receiving, and I'm going to print a pallet label. So here is receiving, and when I receive a pallet, I'm going to get a label. Later on, when I do some shipping, you're going to go ahead and see some shipping for labels for pallets, labels for cartons. Here's my UCC 128 labels. And notice here that I can have labels for the public, which means any user, any customer is going to get this label. But if I click down here, I can make this private, and I can save it just for one customer. And I can really control who's going to get which label. These labels they could be crystal labels, they could be PDFs, they could be JPEGs, nice label, etc. All these different type of documents can be saved and printed as transactions happen. Another thing that's important to know is where users come from. So if I look at user control, I have Joe, my user that I'm going to be using today. Joe has many options, but I've only given him just a few. So we'll get this to open. When I look at Joe, you'll see that Joe has a couple of different tabs on his screen. So I have distribution, pallets, and pop and shop floor. The bulk of what we're going to do today is under distribution. So when you look at the handheld, which you'll see in just a minute, just know just by checking or unchecking these different options, these items flow right onto Joe's workspace on the gun. So this is where you set up the things that people can do. Okay. And finally, I want to show you where we keep the barcode relationships. If I look at our table management, where we manage different information about items, you'll notice here in this grid that my normal item number is right here. But I have a special relationship by a -12 for a standard pack. A -1296 would be a full pallet. A master pack would be -48. So anytime I need to scan a special relationship, WiSys will cross-reference that. And there's many cross-references in the system. Today, I'm going to be working with these. Okay, I think that pretty much sets up what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to open, before I get started into the actual work, as a point of reference, Agility Explorer is our desktop application. Agility Explorer, again, is built of many components. You can see that there's really hundreds of components built into Agility right out of the box. But for today's demonstration, I have organized these particular components that I want to focus on as my favorites. So depending on you as a user and your groups of users, you can expose different components to different people to be used. Okay. What I'm going to do is open up the application called Order Pick Management. And you'll notice over here on the right, I have the ability to focus my attention based on a filter. And if I just accept this right there, I'm going to be working on one warehouse called MA, my large warehouse. And if I just slide down here, you'll see I have my orders today, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. I also have another warehouse, my CA warehouse. And this warehouse is a little different. This is a warehouse within a warehouse. Actually, it's a storeroom. So my storeroom is designed to do eaches. So when I get an internet order like this one, this particular order 1000 came into the system, and I have a very easy process to fill orders. I can come in and just check box this particular order. These are the 3 line items. You'll notice that I have plenty of stock available for each of these items, and I really have to ship 1 each. To manage this order, all I need to do is check box the lines that I want to work on, and I'm going to print the pick ticket. This goes really fast, so we'll just start with this order. When I get this order, I'm going to print my pick ticket because I need a document to work with to collect. You'll notice that this document is using my pick sequence field for a zone. Inside my little storeroom where I have these high-moving items, I have everything arranged in zones. So I'm reusing the pick sequence field as a zone. When I cancel this, it'll ask me if I'm done, and it'll just clear that screen. I'm just going to go back into that. So that order has been printed. It's marked as status 4 in the system, and I'm going to go ahead and fulfill that order. In doing so, I'm going to use a desktop application that's doing my shipping. So again, this is my first of 4 orders. This is my internet order. And all I need to do here is start a shipment and add a carton. When I add a carton, I'm going to then add an item to that carton. You'll see that my order over here is 1004. This is my shipment number. Just like a sales order, I'm building a collection of things that are against this particular sales order. So I'm just going to touch the screen to add an item. In this case, I'm going to use a scanner. I'm going to scan my order, and I've got a problem. So I'm going to go on to my other order. So I'm going to switch over to my other warehouse, MA, and I've got my orders right here. Now you'll notice that this particular grid has buttons across it. These are execution buttons. And I can add information to this grid to suit me as an individual that I might need more information. Maybe I want to add my PO to this so I can filter. Maybe I want to add my method of shipping. So here, I'm going to focus today on a couple of different orders, WMS orders, and you'll see that I have my different methods of shipping listed over here. If I select all of these orders, I can quickly fill back orders. You'll notice I filled all these orders very quickly just by this one click of a button. This would normally be done individual orders in Macola, screen by screen. You'll notice that I still have a problem, that these particular items are not in stock. So if I pick one of these items here on the screen, and I look at it, I can see exactly what's going on at this particular warehouse. I can see my PO, and you notice I have a PO 10,000 for some of these products. It's tardy, so I'm going to expedite it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a handheld scanner, and I'm going to log into my scanner. So I'm going to log in as Joe, and I'm going to type my secret password, and I'm going to open the screen. So these are the icons that have been given to Joe. Now, in this case, I have just seen the truck pull up that has my material on purchase order 10,000. I happen to see that that container truck that just came in is completely flat packed, and I'm going to build pallets of product as it comes in. So I'm going to use Pallet Receiving, and I'm going to build some pallets. So the first thing I'm going to do is start a new pallet. and I'm going to identify which order I'm going to receive against and the item that I'm going to receive. I'm going to scan. Now, the items that are coming in are flat pack and master cases of 27 on a pallet. So I'm going to scan my quantity that goes on this pallet. Now, when I do that, I'm going to hit save, and it went forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button to print a label. I may want several labels to print for each pallet, one for each side. So we didn't auto-print the pallet label. We printed one at a time. So I have my pallet label 13, and I'm going to clear the screen, and I'm going to do the exact same thing again with another new pallet. Some of these things could be defaulted based on your process. And there I go again. And finally, one more pallet. And you notice that the quantity remaining keeps going down. It tells me what's left to receive on that item against that PO. So there we go. Now I have my 3 pallet labels. Now you're hearing my printer go off as I press that printer button, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. We have the receiving done of those pallets, and they're just sitting at the dock. So what I need to do next is I need to move them to where they belong. I'm going to do a transfer. So all I have to do is scan the pallet number, and it knows everything about that pallet. So there is pallet 13. You can see that it's sitting on the dock. I'm going to move it into the warehouse, put it on my forklift, and take it to where I want to place it. I find an open bin, and I drop it there. The same thing is true for pallet 14, and I'm going to drop that in another open bin, and pallet 15, and drop it in another bin. So that's a visual method of doing put away. I can put those products anywhere in the warehouse that is allowed for those products to go. So now I have my product put together, and it's in the warehouse. Now what's important that I mentioned earlier is to let down some products. So now it's great that I have 3 pallets, but I need to create a pallet that is pickable. So I'm going to go ahead and pick from a pallet, and I'm going to take my pallet number 13, and when I scan pallet 13, I'm going to tell it where to drop it, and I'm going to drop it in my A000 bin, which is my pick bin. When I do that, this pallet will disappear as a pallet being tracked as inventory, and the product will remain behind as pickable product. So now that pallet is gone. So if I look in the system for pallet view, and I look for pallet 13, it's not available. But if I were to look at pallet 15, I can see that exactly where that pallet is. So that pallet is gone, and I now have pickable product. If I come back to this screen as a management person, maybe an order entry, or maybe a warehouse person is charged with filling orders, things are happening all day long. I'll go ahead and fill all back orders again, and notice that everything has been filled now. Another thing I'd like to point out is if I had limited inventory and I wanted to change a quantity to ship, you'll notice that we've opened up this field for data entry. Any of these fields could be changed for input based on the way you would want to work. But in this case, if I had limited inventory and wanted to spread maybe a pallet between a couple of different customers, I could just change these quantities right here. And it would just update Macola as we go, which is really handy when you have limited inventory. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to begin to work on my orders. Now that I've filled all my back orders, I'm going to use another execution button, print pick tickets. So just by checking this box at the top, I'm flagging all these orders to be printed. and hopefully they'll all go through just perfect this time. And you'll see that I have my pick ticket here. I'll go ahead and print those. And they look good. If I look at order status, I'm going to go to a grid that shows me my order statuses. You'll notice that I can look at my orders based on a range. I could have all dates, or I could have, say, on or before today, which is a kind of a popular one. And I can set my range to look at different orders. So here are my orders right here, order 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. So again, I'm going to focus on just these orders, and these are the ones I want to work on. Okay. Now, so let me go quickly ship this order because I am done with that one. And I will open up the shipping screen in my small area. I believe the order number should still be there. And hopefully it is. And I want to add product to that item. Okay, order 1,000. You can type, scan, or look up, whichever you need to do. So here's order 1,000. The item to scan to put in the box is that item. You'll notice it defaults to the quantity on the order, 1. So I've just added that item to the box. Now I'm going to touch the screen with my finger, so to speak, and I'm going to add, I made a mistake, I'm going to get rid of that package, and I'm going to add another item to that carton. Item order 1,000 still is what I'm working on, and I'm going to scan the item and hit enter and validate what I'm putting in the box. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to touch add item, and I'm going to continue down this process until I get all the items in the box. So there are my 3 items in the box. You'll notice that I'm directed over here. WiSys supports truckload, UPS, FedEx, and USPS. And based on how I want to ship, all I have to do is push this button now. The order header is directing me which way to ship. So I'm going to turn on my webcam now so you can see what I'm doing. And here is my office. And right here, I have my printer. So when I press this button, UPS, you're going to get to see this last screen. And you'll be able to see this particular order is going to be added to the order. I can show additional information. Reference fields can be mapped. I've got my sales order mapped to this reference field number 1. Any last-minute changes could be modified at the shipping department. And if customer service is screaming to send it out UPS Air because it's late, they could make that last-minute change. I'm just going to go ahead and press the shipment button. And you'll go ahead and see that I'm going to get this screen and my UPS label. So here is my packing list that goes along with this. And here is what the UPS label would look like. This is a test label since I'm using a test system. And that order is completely through the system. And if it was required for me to drop an invoice in the box, I could actually do all the billing and the invoicing right here. So depending on how you want that to flow in your business, these could all be one after the other, seamlessly printing out, or you can do it a little bit manual like I did. So that order is now at a status 9 in the system, waiting to be posted. Let's go ahead and work on the other orders. They're a little harder. Okay, so that is complete. And I'll go ahead and turn off my webcam now. So let's take a look at the order number 2000, which is my standard pack order. And a standard pack is defined as a box that has an exact number of items in it every time. So if your products are standard packed as you manufacture them or as you get them from overseas, that's how they would work. Okay, for a standard pack order, I could start a shipment here, but I really would prefer to use the handheld. Okay, so I have an icon on my screen that says standard pack. Now, whether I build the order on the desktop or with a handheld, I'm going to have the same result. It just depends on how you want to pick and pack in your business. So I'm going to start by creating a shipment. And I need to identify what order I'm working on. And that's the order, and I have a new carton. So the item that I want to pick and pack is the first item is going to be my pen. So I'm just going to scan any of the items that I come to as I pick in the sequence that I get them. And you'll notice that I scan the item number with a -12, and it makes that translation for me. And now it wants to know where I'm getting them. So I'm in the warehouse. I've got a little cart. I've got a carton. I'm putting this item in that cart, on my cart, and it's a box of 12. Okay. So I'm done with that. I save it. And I'm going to and here I'm going to get my UCC 128 label, because this is an order for a EDI order. I'll let you take a look at that. So you can see here is my unique UCC 128 that was memorized for this particular customer. And we'll go ahead and do this again. And so now I'm going to go back to here and click New Carton. And I'm going to go down to the item that I'm going to get, and I'm going to scan the next item, and I put that in the box. And I have to tell it where I'm getting it, and I'm good. And so here comes my next UC 128 and the label that goes in the box to go with it. So just like that. And one more time, we are going to do New Carton and hit Enter. My item number is for this item. This is the last one. I'm going to get it out of my pick bin, and I'll get my labels. Sometimes if you're too fast hitting Enter, you're going to get red at the top of the screen, which means you've made an error, which means you've just scanned error, basically. Okay, so this is my order 2000, and it is for Annie's Hallmark. And so we'll get that ready to go in just a minute. Now we're going to do a mixed case order. This is the third order. And I'm going to use just standard carton packing for that. So I'm going to hit Enter here, start a new carton, and my order is 3000. And this time I'm going to add the first item. And the bin that I'm getting it out of, again, is my pick bin. And I'm putting 12 in this box. And I'm required to put 3 different items in each box for this order. And my last item. So now I have that carton taken care of, and I want to move to a new carton. And I'm going to do the exact same thing again. That, my bin, and my quantity of 12. Next item, quantity of 12. And finally, my last item, where I'm getting it from, 12. So just that fast for order 107. I look at that order here. You can see that the shipping manager has complete visibility of what Bob, the worker, is doing out there. If he wants to see what's the status on order 106, that's what order 106 looks like. If I look at order 105, not there, 104, then it's there. So I have 104, 106, 107, 3 different type of orders. You can see that this first one for my internet order is status shipped. Status for this one is not shipped, so it's status N. And let's work on our full pallet order now. I'm just about done. So let's go back to the handheld. And this is the easiest of them all, because what I do is I have full pallets in inventory, and my Giant Eagle distribution center wants 1 pallet of each item. So I get to do load pallets. So I hit enter for 108, next shipment number, scan my order, and I just scan the pallet that I want to put on the order. So I just grab the first pallet, and of course I need to scan the item to make sure I'm getting the right item on the order, and then I say the pallet number. So that's the first one. The next one are my sticky notes. Just making mistakes all over the place here, but I'm getting corrected. There's the next item. And finally, my order, my item, my pallet. Okay. So order 108 is now ready to go. So I turn in my paperwork to the boss, and he or she can see that I've got 3 pallets on this order and all the items that go with it, down to where they came from. Any special information about these items is all down here. Okay. So I have my 3 orders ready to go, and I'm going to bring up, if the trucks are coming now. So here is the UPS. This is a UPS order 106. I'm directed to that one. And I'm going to go ahead and ship that order. Go ahead and get that shipment going. And there's my labels for that order. And finally, I've got another one to go. So this order is now ready to go. UPS that order. And I'm good to go. And finally, my truckload shipment, which is a little different because it's not UPS. I'm going to get different paperwork for this one. So let's go ahead and touch LTL. I'm going to add my seal number. And I'm going to add my trailer. My pro number. And any other paperwork that I need to go out. And I'm going to say go, print. So here's my packing list. And again, here's my bill of lading. So any different documents, this could be, a unique bill of lading per customer. And I'm completely done. If I go back to my orders here, look at my order statuses, I can see what's happened with these orders, invoice printed. And if I have need for more information about this order, I could go to this one. And I can drill down, and I might want to see, has that order been received yet? And I could trace it right here. So here's a tracer number. And I'll show you how this works. I'll scan recently delivered package here to my home and say track, and you'll see that I can get delivery status on this particular order. All integrated within Macola, all integrated within WiSys, just that quick. Okay, we're coming up on a few minutes before the end of the hour. I could go ahead and bill and invoice these. We could have a discussion about EDI. I think I'll go ahead and move into that discussion on EDI if that's okay. The way to talk about the EDI system with WiSys. First of all, WiSys has direct integration with the Data Masons application. This was done a number of years ago. You just check this box, make any changes here to your references, your tables that need to be connected for other information. And as soon as you do a shipment in WiSys, we directly integrate with Data Mason's table structure so that the ASN can immediately go out. The other option would be to use the BCS, or would be to use SPS shipping. SPS uses the BCS connector, and the BCS manages the relationship between the cloud with SPS and the Macola database, the ins and the outs. So the BSI connector can watch the WiSys tables, and when something has happened, then the BSI connector would integrate that with SPS. So both systems are there. Both systems work just fine. Depending on your needs, you might want to investigate either system. Okay, Ann, Bruce, and the rest of the group, are there other questions?
I think we have a few more questions. I think that at this point, if you're finished showing things, Bob, I did have one request to show the UCC 128 label quickly. Could you bring up your video cam again for just a second and show the UCC 128 label just for
Sure.
a second? And then we can conclude the main part and take some questions.
Okay. So maybe the first way to do this is to come in here and go to Documents, and I'm going to look at the UCC label here. So if I open this UCC label, it's going to ask me, how do I want to look at it? So this is the designed label out of the box in the system. To answer your question, I have this particular label. Can I have my screen share? There it is. So here is that label and how it printed based on my setup. So depending on what you need on your label and available information, you have that at your fingertips. I hope that answered your question.
I hope so. Okay. Is that it for what you wanted to show, Bob? You got any more slides?
I think that's it.
Okay.
I'll just go back to here and end up on this slide.
Okay. Good. That gives people some idea about where they can get more information, too. Okay, we had a question from David about how EDI is connected to Macola order entry, and I guess I'll just answer that in the fact that they need to have an EDI provider, and Bob mentioned two of them, Data Masons and SPS, which would bring in an 850 order. We produce the 856, which is the advanced ship notice, as it goes out. So hopefully that answers David's question. Bob wants to know about if shipping automatically does confirm shipping, and the answer to that would be yes, it does. In fact, for a real-time inventory, we strongly recommend that you use confirm shipping. Can we send the PowerPoint to someone? Yes, I believe we could send that. I don't see any reason we couldn't. The PowerPoint might help this particular person internally with something, so we could do that. Inventory from 3PLs, Andy's asking about. I guess we need to know a little bit more. We do support in-transit inventory which takes place with 3PLs, Andy. So we have in-transit transactions. It works within the in-transit framework that Macola has. So that would help there. Let me see what else there are for questions. We got a little flood of them here at the end. We had a question from Rebecca about bartender. WiSys supports nice label or crystal, but not bartender. So sorry about that, Rebecca, but that we found that the nice label engine and their interface to our system worked better, and so we chose to go with nice label as a label printing product, but crystal reports also works as well. We have another minute or two. Let me see if I have any other questions. I had one question earlier about whether we supported using wedge scanners, and the answer to that is yes, you could use a wedge scanner, either a USB wedge scanner or a tethered wedge scanner, or you can obviously use what Bob was demonstrating, which is a wireless scanner from Motorola.